So Ryan here, we're going to discuss a little bit about the back squat, and we'll have an example from an unskilled athlete and how they progressed into being a skilled athlete in the back squat. Starting off, we're going to discuss variables such as stability, technique in general, and also what that can do as far as generating leverage to move that weight. So right off the bat, we're looking at an unskilled athlete performing the squat, and as you can tell, this is without any cueing, and her legs are pretty far apart, which is a wider base. What that can result in is the internal rotation of the hips, and that can lead to a stability issue as well as just a technique issue. So let's see the athlete do a squat. As she comes down, her knees are bowing in, her head comes unusually forward, and she comes back up. Now if we see that from the side, if we can get our athlete to turn, and she's going to go back down to that squat, notice the bar path moves much further than the midline, which generates a lot of force on that lower back. And as you can tell, she's starting the squat with her knees, and what we want to do is avoid that and start the squat with our hips. So let's see the athlete do another squat. There she goes, and we get a little kyphosis on the way up, which obviously we want to avoid for multiple reasons. Obviously it's putting the lower lumbar in jeopardy, but it's also putting a lot of the weight forward of the athlete, which can result in stability issues and inevitably them failing the lift. So a couple of cueing methods, if I can get the athlete to face me. There she goes. So a couple of cueing methods that we could start straight off with is bringing the feet in a little closer into a comfortable athletic stance. Very good. And then we could start to work on just getting those hips moving before we initiate the squat. So if I get the athlete just to start a little hip hinge movement, just bend at the hips. There she goes. Good. Just loosen them up, and then what we want to do is get those knees to track over the toes as we're going down to our squat. So what I like to tell athlete is to imagine there's lasers coming out of their knees and their toes, because lasers are fun. Who doesn't want to think about that? And those need to line up perfectly as they go down. So let's try and just give her that first cue. So if our athlete could do a squat with the idea of keeping her knees over her toes. Beautiful. And she comes back up, and she's going a good depth. That didn't seem to be an issue before, and it's not one now. Excellent. If we get the athlete to turn, the next cue we can do to try and avoid any type of kyphosis or any type of pelvic tilt is to get a focal point up nice and high so that she can keep her chest up and keep her head up. So let's have the athlete do a squat, once again keeping our knees over our toes and just looking up, and there she is coming up. And as you can tell, the spine is in a neutral position. We don't have any type of curvature, either up high or down low, any type of lordosis. So let's get the athlete to do another squat. Heads up, nice and straight. Spine is neutral. She's coming back up. A big drastic change from where we previously were. And then the last initiative is making sure that we lead that squat with our hips. So let's make sure that the athlete begins with the hip. There we go, hip joint, knees, and she's coming up, driving through the heels, focal point up high. So we've come a long way from that initial squat where we had a lot of bar path moving forward of the athlete, which inevitably generated a lot more weight for the athlete to travel up. So we've made the lift more efficient as well as safer for the athlete.